Rabel argues that the Klan declined in strength in part because of internal weaknesses, its lack of central organization, and the failure of its leaders to control criminal elements and sadists. More fundamentally, it declined because it failed to achieve its central objective, the overthrow of Republican state governments in the South. Historian Elaine France Parsons describes the membership, quote, "Lifting the Klan mask revealed a chaotic multitude of anti-black vigilante groups, disgruntled poor white farmers, wartime guerrilla bands, displaced Democratic politicians, illegal whiskey distillers, coercive moral reformers, sadists, rapists, white workmen fearful of black competition, employers trying to enforce labor discipline, common thieves, neighbors with decades-old grudges, and even a few freedmen and white Republicans who allied with Democratic whites or had criminal agendas of their own. Indeed, all they had in common, besides being overwhelmingly white, Southern, and Democratic, was that they called themselves, or were called, Klansmen." Another historian, Eric Foner, observed, "In effect, the Klan was a military force serving the interests of the Democratic Party.
Millionaire thoughts, billionaire dreams. I know niggas who played ball and gave it up for lean.
Millionaire thoughts, billionaire dreams, but my account in overdraft, I'm about to scream.
Rich man greed,
A poor man prayers,
every man bleeds.
but look how God made us.
Too many losses, it's only right that we win. Yeah, I made a promise I'm never gonna lose again.
Yo, what's going on? It's your boy SL550, and this is the N.G.L.A podcast. Thank you for tuning in. Before we start, man, make sure y'all hit that like, share, subscribe button, and hit that notification bell so you get notified every time your boy drop a dope video. Man, today, we're going to talk about a few things, man. First of all, we're going to talk about, we're going to go into the keep you updated with the whole Epstein situation. Somewhat breaking news, could be breaking news. We gonna see. But Benny Johnson from the Benny Johnson Show is gonna give you the scoop. Shout out to him. Make sure y'all go give him a subscribe. Also, we gonna be talking about the Democratic Party. And, you know, how they like to keep calling Trump a racist and Republicans racist. Now, look, I'm not saying that, especially during the times that we're going to be talking about, that there weren't any Republicans who were not, who aren't racist. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying that the history that they try to portray and that they have gaslighted the black, especially the black community with, is that the Republicans are racist and they're with the Proud Boys and neo-Nazis and white nationalists. And they portray these lies, and we gonna expose the truth today. I gave you a little bit of a breadcrumb in the intro, but we're going to get more deep into it and we're going to talk about it. Also, a great author and a professor, Carol Swain, or Swain, either one, is going to talk about this whole Republican and Democratic Party thing also, and she's going to break it down. And she's a person who obviously has a long history in talking about black history and, you know, the Republican and Democratic Party. And yeah, man, it gets deep, bro. And I just think so many people are really misinformed on who was really for slavery and who was really for the civil rights movements and things like that, and who wasn't. You know what I mean? Like I said, back in these times that we're going to discuss, obviously, as a whole, you know, it definitely was a segregated time, and it was a time that was definitely a lot of racism going on both sides of the aisle. But who were the ones who freed the slaves? Who were the ones that wanted to see black people freed and, really have civil rights? So we're going to break this thing down today. And so I'm going to go to the video that was part of the intro, and going to break down we're going to break down the KKK, right, in the beginning. And then we're going to go into the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. All right, so let's get straight into it, people.
The Ku Klux Klan, or KKK, is deeply rooted in the post-Civil War history of the United States. They are three of the most familiar words and letters in almost any language, synonymous with hatred, intimidation, and murder. What were the origins of the KKK?
What was the origins? So just keep that in mind. This is about a 15, 16-minute video. So it's a decent sized video, but just really pay attention, really listen, and be open. I stopped it only because I want people to truly be open-minded. That's what this is all about. Be open-minded and be accepting to accept truths that you might have not known about, and that's it. Let's get into it.
Okay. Why was it created and by who? What have prominent historians stated about the rise and fall of the KKK? How did it evolve, and what did that change become? How deeply was the Klan embedded into business, society, and even national politics? Hello, I'm Colin Heaton, former soldier, Marine Corps Scout Sniper, history professor, historian, and book author, and we will answer these questions and other issues on this segment of Forgotten History. The Klan had three evolutions in its history as it evolved and altered its methods, tactics, and expanded its focus. All three movements have called for the purification of American society, and all are considered far-right extremist organizations. During each period of the Klan's existence, the official membership was secret, and estimates of the total numbers of members was unknown, and they were highly exaggerated by both friends and enemies alike. The first Klan was founded in Pulaski, Tennessee, on December 24, 1865, by 6 former officers of the Confederate Army. They were Frank McCord, Richard Reed, John Lester, John Kennedy, J. Calvin Jones, and James Crow. It started innocuously as a fraternal social club inspired at least in part by the then largely defunct Sons of Malta, perceived as an offshoot combined of the old Knights Templar and Teutonic Knights. The KKK adopted many of the initiation rites and formal ceremonies of those previous organizations with the same purpose of fraternity, solidarity, and most of all, political power, which today in hindsight is laughable as well as tragic. The official KKK manual describing these rituals was printed by Laps D. McCord of Pulaski, Tennessee. The Klan also needed a distinguishing uniform, which later in their history would become notorious: robes, and hence their adopting the Spanish capirote hood. Former Confederate Brigadier General George Gordon, for whom Fort Gordon, Georgia was named for, developed the prescript, which supported the superiority of white society and culture and adopted and taught white supremacist beliefs. They created the ranking system, and at the top of the KKK was the Imperial Wizard, or the National President. Below this were the Grand Dragons, who governed an individual state, called a realm. Then there were the Grand Magis, or Deputy Commanders, and then the Grand Cyclops, responsible under the Grand Dragons for establishing and maintaining recruitment standards. Below them were the Kleagles, who were managed and who were responsible for recruiting and vetting of new members. The rest of the members were the Klansmen, or the foot soldiers, and enforcers. Confederate General Nathan Bedford Forrest was elected the first Imperial Wizard, and stated that he was the Klan's national leader. Forrest was very concerned about the Republican influence growing among the blacks in the South. Despite its apparently well-structured appearance, The Klan had no membership rosters, no named chapters, and no listed local officers, so it was difficult to judge its membership. Due to the heavy response by President Andrew Johnson and the increasing numbers of federal soldiers into the southern states as a result, Forrest called for the Klan to disband in 1869. He stated that it was being perverted from its original honorable and patriotic purposes, becoming injurious instead of subservient to the public peace. Historian Stanley Horn argues that, generally speaking, the Klan's end was more in the form of spotty, slow, and gradual disintegration than a formal and decisive disbandment. Despite Gordon's and Forrest's work, local Klan units never accepted the prescript and continued to operate independently without any form of command and control. Historian George C. Rabel argues that the Klan declined in strength in part because of internal weaknesses, its lack of central organization, and the failure of its leaders to control criminal elements and sadists. More fundamentally, it declined because it failed to achieve its central objective, the overthrow of Republican state governments in the South. Historian Elaine France Parsons describes the membership, quote, "Lifting the Klan mask revealed a chaotic multitude of anti-black vigilante groups, disgruntled poor white farmers, wartime guerrilla bands, displaced Democratic politicians, illegal whiskey distillers, coercive moral reformers, sadists, rapists, white workmen fearful of black competition, employers trying to enforce labor discipline, common thieves, neighbors with decades-old grudges, and even a few freedmen and white Republicans who allied with Democratic whites or had criminal agendas of their own. Indeed, all they had in common, besides being overwhelmingly white, Southern, and Democratic, was that they called themselves, or were called, Klansmen." Another historian, Eric Foner, observed, "In effect, the Klan was a military force serving the interests of the Democratic Party, the planter class, and all those who desired restoration of white supremacy. Its purposes were political, but political in the broadest sense, for it sought to affect power relations, both public and private, throughout Southern society. It aimed to reverse the interlocking changes sweeping over the South during Reconstruction, to destroy the Republican Party's infrastructure, undermine the Reconstruction state, reestablish control of the black labor force, and restore racial subordination in every aspect of Southern life. To that end, they worked to curb the education, economic advancement, voting rights, and right to keep and bear arms of black people. The Klan soon spread into nearly every Southern state, launching a reign of terror against Republican leaders, both black and white. Those political leaders assassinated during the campaign included Arkansas Congressman James M. Hines, 3 members of the South Carolina legislature, and several men who served in constitutional conventions. The Klan primarily focused upon suppressing black voters, and a political campaign often turned deadly. More than 2,000 people were killed, wounded, or otherwise injured in Louisiana in the few weeks leading up to the presidential election of November 1868. One example was in St. Landry Parish, which had a registered Republican majority of 1,071. The Klan's efforts proved effective because after the murders, no Republicans voted in the fall elections. White Democrats cast the full vote of the parish for General Ulysses S. Grant's opponent, Democrat Horatio Seymour. The KKK also killed and wounded more than 200 black Republicans hunting and chasing them down. In the governor's race in Columbia County, Georgia, 1,222 votes were cast for Republican Rufus Bullock, so the Klan got involved. By the November presidential election, the Klan's intimidation suppressed the Republican vote, and only one person voted for Grant. As a result, the 1871 Civil Rights Act allowed the president to suspend habeas corpus. This means that the traditional right to be brought before a court or a judge to appeal for bail or challenge an unlawful detention could be suspended, and was in fact suspended by Lincoln during the Civil War. During this period, the Florida Freedmen's Bureau records provided a detailed recounting of Klansmen's beatings and murders of freedmen and their white allies, numbering 150 dead in voting intimidations. As a result of these actions, in 1870 and 1871, the federal government passed the Enforcement Acts, which were intended to investigate and prosecute Klan crimes. While racism was a core belief of the Klan, initially anti-Semitism was not. Many prominent Southern Jews identified wholly with Southern culture, resulting in examples of Jewish participation in the Klan until they too were included as targets. The second era of the Klan started in 1915 as a small group in Stone Mountain, Georgia. It expanded membership nationwide in the early and mid-1920s, including urban areas of the Midwest and West, with Kansas being a large Klan stronghold. The various independent Klan organizations often took a position of supporting prohibition and compulsory public education for white children, although blacks were not to be educated if possible, and if they were, only in segregated schools. The Klan received its greatest propaganda boost of its entire history when film director D.W. Griffith released his 1915 silent film, The Birth of a Nation, which took great liberties with the truth surrounding the creation and activities of the first Klan. This was when the Klan was resurrected by William Joseph Simmons in Georgia due to the popularity of the film. Simmons relied on the original founding documents from the original Klan and collected the stories, relying upon the memories of some surviving elders. When the film was shown in Atlanta in December 1915, Simmons and his new Klansmen paraded to the theater in their robes and pointed hoods, even riding on robed horses, imitating those scenes in the film. In the film, the Klan was represented as white knights of the nation's conscience, protecting white virtue and white women from the ravaging sexually aggressive Negro. The public response was very positive as a result, but the film did not mention lynchings, other murders, and voter intimidation. Within the first 6 months of the association's national recruitment campaign, Klan membership had increased by 85,000 by 1920. By the mid-1920s, the organization's membership ranged from 3 to 8 million members. The Klan also began to become deeply involved in politics, even more so than in the 1860s to 1870s, as they knew that they needed pro-Klan Democratic members in state and federal government to block Republican actions targeting their organization. They needed politicians who would support Jim Crow laws and keep the federal government out of their business. They were described as being the acting military arm of the Democratic Party and were attributed with helping white Democrats regain control of state legislatures throughout the South through voter intimidation and ridiculous literacy and cognitive tests against black voters. In 1923, Simmons was ousted as leader of the KKK by Hiram Wesley Evans. From September 1923, there were 2 Klan organizations, the one founded by Simmons and led by Evans in the southern United States, and a separate group led by Grand Dragon D.C. Stevenson based in Indiana, with its membership primarily in the Midwestern United States. However, despite their rather successful advances into the political arena, public opinion was against the Klan, and membership rapidly declined in the latter half of the 1920s. Infighting from various Klan groups, as well as federal law enforcement opposition, brought about a collapse in the membership of both groups. Membership had dropped to about 30,000 by 1930, and finally faded away in the 1940s. The third incarnation of the Klan was resurrected in the early 1950s in the form of localized and isolated groups that used the KKK brand name locally but had no connected affiliation. They opposed the civil rights movement of the 1950s and 60s, such as when they fought against Brown versus Board of Education and imposed separate but equal as their justification. During this period, they often infiltrated Southern police departments, schools, and governor's offices, such as George Wallace of Alabama. Several members of the Klan groups had beaten the Freedom Riders in 1961, murdered civil rights workers, such as Medgar Evers, by Klansman Byron Della Beckwith in 1963. Some were convicted of murder in the deaths of civil rights workers in Mississippi in 1964, and of children in the bombing of the 16th Street Baptist Church in Birmingham, Alabama in 1963, and killing Viola Liuzzi in 1965. These activities saw the KKK classified as a hate group by the Anti-Defamation League and the Southern Poverty Law Center. The final demise of the original Klan arrived in the form of a senseless murder of 19-year-old black male Michael Donald in 1981 and a trial that made history in Alabama. In 1987, the Klan was successfully sued in federal court in a historic $7 million verdict against the men involved in the lynching of Donald. But Robert K. Byrd, the Democratic leader and longtime senator, was a Klan recruiter in the 1940s. He described the organization as a group of upstanding people, doctors, lawyers, clergy, judges, who he thought could provide an outlet for his talents and ambitions, and also supported his opposition to communism. Byrd claimed to have left the KKK in 1946, but encouraged by the Grand Dragon of his KKK branch, and with Klan money, Byrd ran on the Democratic ticket for both state and federal offices. The Klan funded him throughout his career. Byrd opposed Brown versus Board of Education, supported Jim Crow laws, and separate but equal racial laws. He joined James Strom Thurmond Sr., who also helped him in opposing racial equality laws, also opposed the Voting Rights Act of 1965 and the Civil Rights Act of 1964, and ran with Klan money. Byrd called civil rights leader Martin Luther King Jr. as a self-seeking rabble-rouser. Both Hillary Clinton and Joseph Biden proudly proclaimed Senator Robert K. Byrd to be their mentor. Buildings still carry Byrd's name in exaltation. The United States government still considers the Klan to be a subversive terrorist organization. Currently, the Anti-Defamation League puts total KKK membership nationwide at around 3,000, while the Southern Poverty Law Center claims 6,000 members in total. The Ku Klux Klan became notoriously immortalized by its actions, origins, and total creation by the Democratic Party, which supported and funded Klan activities to include political and criminal enterprises. Remember this when you hear people claim that Republicans are fascists. Republicans were hated and targeted by the Klan, and for good reason. We hope you enjoyed this segment of Forgotten History. Please click like and...
I'm just saying, people. I'm just saying. They want you to believe that the Republican Party is the racists. They're the ones that's down with the KKK, and you got retards like Jasmine Crockett who will tell you dumb shit like that. So the video was a little long. I didn't want to interrupt it because I know how it be when you keep interrupting the video, and and that was a powerful video. It was well put together. It was all facts in there. It wasn't an opinion piece. It was what it was. The Ku Klux Klan was originated from the Democratic Party. And remember, they infiltrated judges, police, all of politics. And they were against the Republicans. And who freed the slaves? Abraham Lincoln, who was a what? A Republican. So, like I said from the beginning, I'm not saying that there wasn't racist Republicans that were in politics or just your average American, especially in those times. But what I'm saying is the history that people think they know, they don't. And this is why I'm real big on history and just learning in general, especially about things like this, because it's not about, learning this so I can hate people or hate, white people or Southern white people or Democrats or no. It's just to know. So, when you out here in the world and you in certain places, and you see things, you know where it came from. That's the whole point of learning history. So it won't repeat itself. You know what I'm saying? But the Democrats would like you to believe that, people like Donald Trump is a racist and people like Joe Biden is for you. And he's for the black community. Even though you just seen that a Democrat who had ties to the KKK was Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton's mentor. Just saying. So before I get on to the Carol, her video, Carol Swain, her video is short. It's about 5 minutes. But I wanted to play this video right here with Donald Trump, because throughout all of these years that since he been president, since he ran for president, you gonna see how all of these news stations were in cahoots to make Donald Trump look like a racist. And this is the reason why videos like the one I showed yesterday with Liberty Hangout when she was interviewing them two young black people, they have, let's just be real. The average person like them aren't doing their history. They don't know. You know what I'm saying? If you ask them, they're fighting for abortion, but if you ask them who Margaret Sanger is, they'll tell you, I don't know, because they don't know. But yet they out here championing and fighting for things that were against you. And then they voting for people who are against you, period. I mean, so let's get into this video right here. And it's just going to show you just the lies. You know what I mean? Because these legacy media companies, they lie so much. And people look to these media companies like MSDNC, NBC, and ABC, to CNN to give them the right information, right? So they hear things like that I'm about to show you, and they assume and they take it as facts when it's been proven and debunked. And even when it's debunked, they still don't believe the truth, because they're slaves to the Democratic plantation.
Are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups?
Sure. You've got David Duke just joined, a bigot, a racist, a problem.
Would you repudiate David Duke?
Sure.
David Duke.
I just want you to look at every single time they ask Donald Trump the same question, his response. Just focus on that. Just open your mind. If you're a person that thinks Donald Trump is a racist and that he's against black people, I just want you to look at his response every single time they ask him the same question over and over.
And robocalls are out again. The white supremacist movement supporting you. Do you have any words for that?
Well, I disavow.
David Duke endorsed me? Okay. All right. I disavow. Okay?
When we looked at it and looked at the question, I disavowed David Duke. So I've disavowed David Duke all weekend long on Facebook, on Twitter, and obviously it's never enough.
Trump's refusal to condemn, distance himself from white supremacists.
The Anti-Defamation League is already out there asking the president to clarify why he didn't condemn white supremacists.
So are you prepared right now to make a clear and unequivocal statement renouncing the support of all white supremacists?
Of course I am. Of course I am.
When Chris joined, we had a news conference, and they asked me the exact same question. I said, I disavow. I disavowed then. I disavowed today on ABC with George Stephanopoulos. I disavowed again.
David Duke is a bad person who I disavowed on numerous occasions over the years.
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see peace.
Then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it.
I totally disavow the Ku Klux Klan. I totally disavow David Duke. Ultimately, he got to the Ku Klux Klan, which obviously I'm going to disavow. I've rejected David Duke. I've rejected the KKK, the Ku Klux Klan.
David Duke is saying to his supporters and followers, vote for Donald Trump. White supremacists are saying, vote. Do you want those votes?
No, I don't want them, and I don't want him to say it.
And you don't want the supporters?
No, I don't want anything.
What do you think of white supremacists, by the way?
I don't like any group of hate.
David Duke announced his Senate candidacy, claiming your agenda.
Are you ready before you ask the question?
Newt Gingrich said every Republican should repudiate this guy no matter what it takes.
And I do. Rebuked. Is that okay? Rebuked.
Rebuked.
Done.
Just to clear it up this morning, can you, naming it, make a declarative statement that you denounce, that the president denounces it?
Racism is evil, and those who cause violence in its name are criminals and thugs. including the KKK, neo-Nazis, white supremacists.
Do you want white supremacists to vote for you?
No, I don't at all. Not at all.
His campaign is denouncing a show of support from the KKK's official newspaper, as in the Ku Klux Klan.
In the same New York Times interview, he denounced white supremacists. He denounced the neo-Nazis who support him.
President Donald Trump signed a congressional joint resolution that condemns white supremacy, neo-Nazis, and other hate groups.
When he was asked to condemn white supremacists, he didn't.
And you had people, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally.
When specifically
Damn. My bad. Anyway, so I was saying that you see Jake Tapper, for instance, right? 2 times in this clip, his weak ass tried to make Donald Trump seem like he was a racist, right? And now he wants to come out with his weak ass book that nobody should buy. And he wants to try to get on the side of Donald Trump, when everybody, including Donald Trump, been saying that Joe Biden wasn't competent and that he wasn't fit to be president. Now everybody wants to act like, oh, we knew and we were trying to say it. And no, these people are liars, bro. And the one thing that they do, and they do well, is that they project. They project what they are and what they stand for onto the Republican Party and Donald Trump, for instance. You know what I'm saying? Listen, multiple times you've seen in that specific clip, the clip right here, and I'm going to finish it, that Donald Trump said multiple times, that he's not with the KKK shit, the white supremacy shit, none of it. He said he disavowed it. He denounced it multiple times. And yet, when they still come to these press briefings and things like that, they'll say, oh, let's just clear it up. And he been cleared it up. Even with that one clip, right? I'm going to show you, because this was the one that they kept saying. Even look at Kamala Harris. Look at her weak ass. Look at her. Man, I fucking hate that woman. Where is it at? Is it right here? Let's see. Hold on.
In the Ku Klux Klan.
In the same New York Times interview, he denounced white supremacists. He denounced the neo-Nazis who support him.
President Donald Trump signed a congressional joint resolution that condemns white supremacy, neo-Nazis, and other hate groups.
When he was asked to condemn white supremacists, he didn't.
I think it's right here.
You had people.
All right, so right here, right? This specific clip right here, they clipped it from right before he said this part. And it said that basically he was saying that there were people on both sides that were good people. You know what I mean? He was basically saying like there were people that were there that didn't mean any hate or harm, on both sides. But when it came to, and I'm gonna let him finish it.
And I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally.
And I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white supremacists. They should be condemned totally. And that was in that clip that they showed over and over and over again on legacy media, trying to make him look like he was with the whole racist shit. You know what I'm saying? So when people are supporting this, right, this is what they're supporting. They're supporting blatant lies. Blatant lies. So when they tell you Donald Trump is a racist, they won't show you that he was the only president to give HBCUs long-term funding, so they didn't have to come to the White House begging for money for, black colleges. They're not gonna show you the Platinum Plan, which help small businesses and black communities and things like that, and much more. They're not going to show you that. They're not going to talk about that. All they're going to try to do is spend anything that they can to make Donald Trump look bad, and that's what they do, bro. Straight lies on every show. Niggas like Jimmy Kimmel. I don't even watch these dudes because they're not with truth, bro. And I could respect somebody, like I respect people like Officer Tatum. You know, go check his channel out. Cause he's a person. If Donald Trump, Benny Johnson, Stephen Gardner, these are people, Megyn Kelly. These are all people that if Donald Trump did something that they don't agree with, they're gonna say it. That's who you want to get your information from. These are journalists that you want to listen to. You know what I mean? Because they're not pushing propaganda, they're not pushing lies. They're gonna give you truth. And that's what you want when you're trying to get real information. But let's finish this clip.
And specifically asked if he would denounce white supremacists, that the president dodged it.
I spoke out forcefully against hatred, bigotry, and violence, and strongly condemned the neo-Nazis, the white supremacists, and the KKK.
Well, I have to say that it's disappointing that a sitting U.S. president can't outright condemn white supremacy.
In one voice, our nation must condemn racism, bigotry, and white supremacy.
The President of the United States, in the year of our Lord 2020, refuses to condemn white supremacists.
Any group of hate, I don't like it. Any group of hate, I am, whether it's white supremacy, whether it's any other kind of supremacy, whether it's Antifa, whether it's any group of hate, I am very concerned about it, and I'll do something about it.
He has yet once to condemn white supremacy, the neo-Nazis. He hasn't condemned a darn thing.
Like, bro. Literally, they showed you every clip, and all of these clips were clips that were during that time. It's not like after the fact. You know, and you could tell it was blowing his shit because he like, yo, like, I disavowed it yesterday. I disavowed it today. I disavow it now. Like, and no matter what he said, they just kept running it on every news station because listen, you got to understand MK Ultra and the power of words. And when you repeat something over and over, it's like an ass song that you may not like, right? Like it's ass. You really don't like it. But they play it so much on the radio or wherever, you might hear it so much that you start to know the song. And then it starts to, you start to fuck with it. You're like, yo, this joint actually I fuck with it a little. You know what I mean? And then you end up liking the song. It's the same thing. They just keep repeating it. And you know what they say, man, if everybody saying Diddy gay, bro, that nigga gay. It's the same thing, bro. So if they care about numbers, it's analytics. If I get enough people to believe me, then I can get the votes. And that's what all it was about. Bro, these people do not give a fuck about you. They don't care about your community. They don't care about your kids. They don't care about nothing. These are the people that started welfare programs, right? And in order to understand this, in order to get welfare today, not just in the 60s, not just in the 70s, today, in order to get welfare, to get Section 8, a man can't be in the home. So you can't have a man as a woman. And that's one of the reasons, there's more, but that's one of the reasons that the black family is the way it is today. Because they pushed welfare onto the black family saying, look, you struggling? We can help you. You know what I mean? We gonna help you. We got a couple of hours for you. And they give you the bare minimum, but in order to get that bare minimum, right, it can't be no man in the house. So women gave up a man in the home, a father in the home, structure in the home, stability in the home, protection in the home for a couple of dollars. Understand this, bro. This shit get wicked. Get real wicked. And these people do nothing but project what they are onto the Republican Party. You know what I mean? And I'm going to say it again. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I don't fuck with none of that shit. There's bad people in both parties. But when it comes to, I just don't like, because like I said before, I was one of the people that was with the Donald Trump a racist and all of that stuff. Because why? Because I was ignorant. Because I didn't have the information. So when I wanted to get into this whole podcast space, politics was real hot on YouTube, and I'm always been into history. You know what I mean? I've always been in. As a kid, I was watching the History Channel on, people like Andrew Carnegie and Henry Ford and stuff like that. Like, I'm into that. I'm into Black history. You know what I mean? Like the history that they won't tell you about. And they're not going to tell you that the Democratic Party was the ones who started the KKK. Not saying like specifically the Democratic Party and the like politicians, but what I'm saying is it originated in people that were given the KKK power were the Democratic Party. You've seen in the video I showed you how they were using the KKK to intimidate Republican voters. And it worked. And they got that weird Eusebius, whatever his name is, to get into office at the time. But let's get into this video right here. We got 2 more videos. This one right here is with Carol Swain, a professor. So yeah, let's get into this. Let's talk about.
When you think about racial equality and civil rights, which political party comes to mind? The Republicans or the Democrats? Most people would probably say the Democrats, but this answer is incorrect. Since its founding in 1829, the Democratic Party has fought against every major civil rights initiative and has a long history of discrimination. The Democratic Party defended slavery, started the Civil War, opposed Reconstruction, founded the Ku Klux Klan, imposed segregation, perpetrated lynchings, and fought against the Civil Rights Acts of the 1950s and 1960s. In contrast, the Republican Party was founded in 1854 as an anti-slavery party. Its mission was to stop the spread of slavery into the new Western territories with the aim of abolishing it entirely. This effort, however, was dealt a major blow by the Supreme Court in the 1857 case Dred Scott versus Sandford. The court ruled that slaves aren't citizens, they're property. The 7 justices who voted in favor of slavery, all Democrats. The 2 justices who dissented, both Republicans. The slavery question was, of course, ultimately resolved by a bloody civil war. The commander-in-chief during that war was the first Republican president, Abraham Lincoln, the man who freed the slaves. 6 days after the Confederate Army surrendered, John Wilkes Booth, a Democrat, assassinated President Lincoln. Lincoln's vice president, a Democrat named Andrew Johnson, assumed the presidency. But Johnson adamantly opposed Lincoln's plan to integrate the newly freed slaves into the South's economic and social order. Johnson and the Democratic Party were unified in their opposition to the 13th Amendment, which abolished slavery, the 14th Amendment, which gave blacks citizenship, and the 15th Amendment, which gave blacks the vote. All 3 passed only because of universal Republican support. During the era of Reconstruction, federal troops stationed in the South helped secure rights for the newly freed slaves. Hundreds of black men were elected to Southern state legislatures as Republicans, and 22 black Republicans served in the U.S. Congress by 1900. The Democrats did not elect a black man to Congress until 1935. But after Reconstruction ended, when the federal troops went home, Democrats roared back into power in the South. They quickly reestablished white supremacy across the region with measures like black codes, laws that restricted the ability of blacks to own property and run businesses, and they imposed poll taxes and literacy tests used to subvert black citizens' right to vote. And how was all of this enforced? By terror, much of it instigated by the Ku Klux Klan, founded by a Democrat, Nathan Bedford Forrest. As historian Eric Foner, himself a Democrat, notes, in effect, the Klan was a military force serving the interests of the Democratic Party. President Woodrow Wilson, a Democrat, shared many views with the Klan. He resegregated many federal agencies and even screened the first movie ever played at the White House, the racist film, The Birth of a Nation, originally entitled The Klansman. A few decades later, the only serious congressional opposition to the landmark Civil Rights Act of 1964 came from Democrats. 80% of Republicans in Congress supported the bill, less than 70% of Democrats did. Democratic senators filibustered the bill for 75 days until Republicans mustered the few extra votes needed to break the logjam. And when all of their efforts to enslave blacks, keep them enslaved, and then keep them from voting had failed, the Democrats came up with a new strategy. If black people are going to vote, they might as well vote for Democrats, as President Lyndon Johnson was purported to have said about the Civil Rights Act. I'll have them voting Democrat for 200 years. So now, the Democratic Party prospers on the votes of the very people it has spent much of its history oppressing. Democrats falsely claim that the Republican Party is the villain, when in reality, it's the failed policies of the Democratic Party that have kept blacks down. Massive government welfare has decimated the black family. Opposition to school choice has kept them trapped in failing schools. Politically correct policing has left black neighborhoods defenseless against violent crime. So when you think about racial equality and civil rights, which political party should come to mind? I'm Carol Swain, professor of political science and law at Vanderbilt University for Prager University.
Yeah, man. So you misinformed, plain and simple. And I believe that a lot of especially black people just don't know. You know, so they blindly vote. They you know, this is the reason why they keep pushing racial issues. You know what I mean? And every chance they get, when a George Floyd situation happens, they get out en masse and make it a big thing. And they're going to make it seem as though the Democratic Party is the party that's there for these violent situations like the George Floyd thing that happened. And I'm bringing that up because it's more recent, but at the end of the day, this is clear facts. This isn't opinions. This is facts. Lyndon B. Johnson was the president that got put into power after JFK got whacked. And JFK was going to pass the Civil Rights Act and all of them things. And the Democrats didn't want to pass it. But what did they do? See, this is what people don't understand. A lot of black people started voting Democrat around that time period because of the Civil Rights Act. And they assumed that the Democratic Party was the ones who really gave a fuck about them, right? And that's the reason they care about us, and they passed the Civil Rights Act, and now we got more freedoms and all of that. But they turned around and put affirmative action in the Welfare Act in it, which does what? It enslaves the black community, because most of the people that's going to get on the welfare system is who? Minorities, people of color. Because during these times, I'm not saying that there wasn't any wealthy black people, because there were, but you had more poor people in the black communities. So of course they're going to take these handouts, man. This is why they're the party of handouts. They're the ones always constantly trying to tell you every 4 years how they're going to give you. They never preach to you about, chasing the American dream, which is only pathway to get there is through hard work. When you look, I showed a video on Greenwood in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and how that was a black community who kept the money in the community, who you had lawyers, doctors, you had engineers, you had it all in that community, and they was thriving. And they had white people who were jealous of that. So that's what caused the riots that happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma. They were jealous because you had black people that they always looked down on and never would think that they would be prosperous. And they were. And now with the culture, now you shift it and you put drugs in the community, which they put in the community, right? And then you have, now you not only have welfare, now you have, like for instance, like back in the day, like your grandparents, when they grew up, the neighborhood knew each other. Everybody knew each other. It was tight. You know what I mean? Like, and you can get your ass whipped by the people down the street because everybody knew each other. And it was more togetherness. Once drugs came into place and welfare and all of these things, then it caused what? Division. Because they didn't want, revolutions like Fred Hampton and, Huey P. Newton, Bobby Seale, and even Malcolm X. Martin Luther King too, but Martin Luther King was trying to be Mr. Nice Guy. You know what I mean? Like, which is like cool, but at the end of the day, how much more can you be oppressed before you actually stand up for yourself? And, and that's why I fuck with Malcolm X, and because he wasn't with none of the turn the other cheek shit. But I hope that I change somebody's perspective or mind on how you feel about the Democratic Party, because the Democratic Party is the party that lies to you. Look at the black communities, bro. I'm from Camden, New Jersey. It's still the same old Camden that I grew up in. You know what I mean? And we've come to the point where we glorify it like growing up poor and broke is like amazing or something. Like, nah. But it'll never get nowhere if we don't reinvest in our own community. It'll never get nowhere if we keep taking the handouts instead of going to work and, getting to it. You know what I mean? And building up our own communities. If you go to these Jewish communities and stuff like that, it's nice, it's gated. I'm pretty sure everybody there is doing some type of business with each other. It's the money is staying within the community. And that's the reason why, races, I said races, ethnicities, I ain't even gonna try to say that. I fuck it up every time I say it. But that's why people like the Jews and even certain white people and stuff like that prosper. Because they keep they teach education to their family and their kids. They college and all of that. And if it ain't college, it's some type of trade, engineering, something that's going to make them money. You know what I mean? But we're teaching our kids how to rap, how to play ball, how to shoot and all that, which it ain't nothing wrong with playing basketball and playing football and being an athlete and stuff like that. Ain't nothing wrong with rapping. But that's how they look at us. They look at us as entertainers and that's it. And we're not going to get above that unless, we start teaching our kids other shit other than being rappers and fucking sports players and shit. But let's get into this whole Epstein update. This is Benny Johnson from the Benny Johnson Show. And Said it's glitching a little. All right. Up there it go. It just went on. Let me see. Hold on. Dang, as soon as we get to the end of the show, I'm gonna start glitching. I don't know why it's been doing this, but you know what? Let's do this.
What's up, guys? It's Benny. Don't mind us in the suit. A little formal for this channel. We're just up here making national news. Mike Johnson flips Epstein's script on GOP, says Ghislaine Maxwell should testify, and Pam Bondi must release files. Mike Johnson was speaking to Benny Johnson and telling you exactly what you wanted to hear today. This was a monster clip. It is going thermonuclear viral, and we are so happy to be lending our voice to something that President Trump wants to see happen. And how can I say that? You know that we have given some tough love to this question of releasing the Epstein files. It's the reason why we've asked so many questions about them, because it is a promise made to the American public. Here's President Trump. And this would be in June of last year, almost 1 year ago today. President Trump saying he will declassify the JFK files. Promise made, promise kept. The Epstein files, we're working on that one. 9/11, maybe that's going to be the next one, right? 9/11 files, we'll see. And ladies and gentlemen, in this answer is very interesting what President Trump said. What President Trump said in this answer is that he doesn't want people to be hurt by the declassification of this, because Jeffrey Epstein is such a lurid figure that perhaps you would be able to destroy someone's career just by Jeffrey Epstein, meeting him for lunch one time, right? And there's a lot of that, and this is an obvious thing to be concerned about, because a lot of these people are potentially people that President Trump knows. Nobody wants to see innocent people be destroyed, right? Right. Not this channel. No honest person does. Here's Donald Trump's full answer here that kind of explains something. And then, most importantly, we're going to show you something that President Trump just did that changes this entire landscape forever. This is fascinating. Okay, so here's President Trump's original promise to release the Epstein files with a caveat.
The FBI, all those institutions.
You're right.
Some people think that one way to build trust is to declassify things that everyone's talking about. I know you talked earlier about it. I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist. So if you were president, would you declassify, you can answer yes or no to these. Yeah. Would you declassify the 9/11 files?
Yeah.
Would you declassify JFK files?
Yeah.
Would you,
I did a lot of it.
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Yeah, I would.
All right.
I guess I would. I think that less so, because, you don't know it. You don't want to affect people's lives if it's phony stuff in there, because there's a lot of phony stuff with that whole world.
Okay, so now we have brand new, but also the same, right, talking points from President Trump on this issue. Now he's president a year later, and Donald Trump just changed the game up at the White House, going out on the lawn and saying, when asked if he still has faith in Pam Bondi, gives an explanation that says she has to release the documents. You have to listen carefully, because Donald Trump talks in a very specific and unique way. But at the very end of his comments here, and Donald Trump, he prefaces it by saying that things could have been added to there could be credible and non-credible information in all the evidence on Epstein. And so you just got to be careful. I don't disagree with that, quite frankly. And so you need to release what is.
Hold on. I don't know why, but.
FBI review, the findings of that review, the Attorney General briefed you on that.
what? On the
DOJ and FBI
on what?
review.
On what subject?
Epstein,
Okay.
on Epstein, of the review of the files. Attorney General Pam Bondi.
A very quick briefing.
Did she tell you, what did she tell you about the review? And specifically, did she tell you at all that your name appeared in the file?
No, she's given us just a very quick briefing, and in terms of the credibility of the different things that they've seen. And I would say that, these files were made up by Comey They were made up by Obama. They were made up by the Biden, we went through years of that with the Russia hoax, with all of the different things that we had to go through. We've gone through years of it, but she's handled it very well, and it's going to be up to her. Whatever she thinks is credible, she should release. Yeah.
This is a genius move. President Trump has gotten a ton of Democrats now saying that they want to release this, the Epstein files. And perhaps was this just Trump erring on the side of caution? Was this Trump trying to get the Democrat Party to call for this as well? I'm not sure. But I really like that answer from President Trump. It shows obviously major migration on this issue. And that the reason I played you the old clip from a year ago, was because it seems to be consistent in that President Trump is saying that people could have weaponized or used this information to harm their political enemies. And we know that they did. And that Donald Trump doesn't want to destroy innocent people, which is a totally morally defensible position. And so that's okay. Like, I'm all right with erring on the side of caution in the sense that you need to explain your work, right? So this is what you need to do. You need to release Epstein's list. Then you need to release the list of people who were accused of, credibly, sexual crimes. And that list exists. We know that list exists because Alan Dershowitz just told us about that list. Dershowitz, it was Epstein's lawyer, and he's been involved in these Epstein lawsuits. And so he would know better than any human being alive that there are the list of people that Jeffrey Epstein's had coffee with. And let's remember, he was prolific. This was the model of the op, was that Jeffrey Epstein wormholed his way into polite society in every way he could conceivably get access, including to Donald Trump. And he was like a member at Mar-a-Lago, right? And like, where did he get the money? How does he buy the membership? Nobody knows. But he was a member at Mar-a-Lago. Like, Trump kicked him out. Trump helped in the prosecution of Jeffrey Epstein the first time in 2028 when the feds got him a sweetheart deal. Anyway, the point is that Alan Dershowitz has explained to us that there are actually 2 Epstein lists. This is a massive, massive piece of breaking news. President Trump saying Pam Bondi has to release the list and release all the information is a big and good step forward. Here's Dershowitz explaining the differences.
Is the government hiding a client list or anything that the Trump administration could release tonight?
No, there is no client list. There never has been a client list. A client list suggests that Jeffrey Epstein made a list of people to whom he trafficked women. What there is a redacted FBI affidavit from accusers. There are several of them. From accusers that accuse that accuse various people of having improper sex, and that has been redacted. The names of the people accused have been blacked out. Now, of course, because I was the lawyer and I did all the investigations, I know who all these people are. I could figure out, based on everything that I saw, who Mr. X is, Mr. Y is, and Mr. Z. I can tell you right now, none of them are public figures who are currently in office. Some of them were previously in office. Some of them are dead. But there is no client list. And the redactions could be undone if you go to court. So many of the things that are being suppressed by 2 judges in Manhattan. And they're doing it largely to protect the alleged accusers who are, in the view of the judges, victims, even though we don't know what their actual status is. But the judges have issued orders, which is why I can't disclose things I'd love to disclose, saying that you can't disclose this information. But Pam Bondi and the Justice Department and Donald Trump are not responsible for that. I don't know of any information that they could disclose that they haven't disclosed.
So this is what's going viral right now, obviously all across the internet. What Pam Bondi thinks is credible, she should release, says Donald Trump. Release whatever is credible. He says that there is some information that's not credible in there, and I think that stands to reason, quite frankly. Totally. I think that this is not a time. What the Trump administration seems to have done is acted recklessly in the release of this information, and now is the time for caution and for explaining your work, for showing your work, obviously. Now, I've never wanted them to just burn people to the ground. Show your work, arrest the criminals. Trump says AG Bondi should release the files of credible Epstein information. That is a big, big W, ladies and gentlemen. Pam Bondi, however, would not respond to President Trump, saying this afternoon that he'd like to see her release all the materials. Later in the presser, Bondi says that the Epstein memo speaks for itself. Well, there you go. Today, our memo speaks for itself, and we'll get back to you on anything else. How would you like to respond to the MAGA base that expressed so much frustration about this? We're going to keep fighting to keep America safe. Yikes. I mean, I guess we'll see, ladies and gentlemen, what happens. This was our question to the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, on this topic. And made a ton of news on it. Very proud to have been doing this work for you. Here's how Mike Johnson responded.
I have a question here about it that concerns either testifying or testimony for Ghislaine Maxwell, potentially before Congress, or if you would support members like Marjorie Taylor Greene or Anna Paulina Luna on the release of subpoenaing the Epstein documents from the DOJ, whether you would support either of those.
Yeah, I haven't talked to Marjorie or Anna about that specific subject, but I'm for transparency. We're intellectually consistent in this. Look, Reagan used to tell us we should trust the American people. I believe in that principle. I know President Trump does as well, and I trust him. I mean, he put together a team of his choosing, and they're doing a great job. It's a very delicate subject, but we should put everything out there and let the people decide it. I mean, the White House and the White House team are privy to facts that I don't know. I mean, this isn't my lane. I haven't been involved in that. But I agree with the sentiment that we need to put it out there. And you know, Pam Bondi, I don't know, when she originally made the statement, I think she was talking about documents, as I understood it, they were on her desk. I don't know that she was specific about a list or whatever, but she needs to come forward and explain that to everybody. I like Pam. I mean, I think she's done a good job. We need the DOJ focusing on the major priorities. So let's get this thing resolved so that they can deal with violent crime and public safety and election integrity and going after Act Blue and the things that the president is most concerned about, as we are. So I'm anxious to get this behind us.
Yeah, man. So, yeah, that was basically the update on that whole thing. I guess Trump is putting pressure on Pam Bondi to release credible files because they're alleging that there is information that is in these files, I guess from the Joe Biden, Obama administration. You know, there could be things that are in it that aren't credible. And it could put, I guess it can cause people that really, truly don't have anything to do with this whole Jeffrey Epstein situation to be put in the public in a bad light. So that's why this whole thing is just, it's crazy. You know, I think just put it out. You know, at least give people something that's credible that they can feel good about, I guess. I don't know, man. I think they putting too much. I mean, I don't know. I'm just so conflicted about this because on one hand, I'm like, just don't care about it. But on the other hand, it's like there's people that need to be held accountable. And I think people just want to see what that looks like. You know what I mean? So like, if it comes out that, you know, certain people, like just for example, I'm not saying he is, but I've heard his name pop up in this whole Epstein thing, Bill Clinton, right? And Hillary Clinton. If let's just say that something did happen and they were involved in it, right? Are they going to go to jail? Are they going to get locked up? Are they going to get prosecuted? Like, what's going to happen? I think that's the real thing that people want to see. They want to see if this does come to light that certain people are involved, will they be held accountable just like the average person would? Because outside of that, I don't really see, the purpose of dropping these files. The MLK and JFK files, I can understand because people, there was just a lot put out and people know that it's bullshit and they know that it's lies. And, I just think the ultimate thing that Trump wants to do, but I think that, he did it with Hillary Clinton when they was doing the whole lock her up thing, lock Hillary Clinton up, because she, we all know Hillary Clinton been in some bullshit. You know what I mean? And when they were screaming lock her up, Donald Trump became president. And remember, he made that joke during that it's like a state dinner or something. And he made that joke like, damn, what did he say? He made a joke about her, like about, locking her up or whatever. It was like in reference to that. I forget exactly what he said, but it was funny though. And he joked about it. But he even said, like before that, it doesn't look good if we're locking up the president, former president's wife, like, and I think that's the part that's so crazy about American politics is that it's so divided. You know what I mean? It's like you got the Republicans, you got the Democrats, and then you got, the independent parties, I guess the American party now that Elon Musk is trying to start. And, it's just division, and it's just who can make the other side look as bad as possible instead of it just being like, all right, the best man won the election. All right, now we all going to be on the same page about just making America better. But it's not about that. It's a lot of just personal interests, a lot of big businesses, big tech companies that are involved in politics. And that's just politics in America. It's business as usual. So it's crazy, man. It really is. This whole thing is like, I'm just like, bro, who the fuck cares about this shit? But obviously a lot of people do, man. So I'm going to keep giving y'all some updates on it as I'm getting it. But, I'm going to end it with, I'm going to end it with, a little thought. I wanted to say something. I'm trying to remember what I wanted to talk about real quick. But anyway, man, I want to say that we need to get away from this whole racism thing. You know what I'm saying? Because nobody can, it's not going to be ever in a good space for anybody if we keep this whole racism thing going. And it does nothing, especially for the black community, but give us a victim mentality. We're being oppressed. And that's just the truth. And we grow up feeling as though we're oppressed. And I know because I used to be one of them people who, I get pulled over. I didn't have no registration on my car. And the first thing I'm saying is, oh, he pulled me over because I'm black. He profiled me. You know what I'm saying? But the fact of the matter was, I just didn't have no registration on my car. You know what I mean? People committing crimes, going to jail, and then we bitching in the jail cell with each other like, yeah, man, they on some bullshit, bro. We trying to convince ourselves that, we can beat our case because instead of us saying, yo, I just need to get my shit together and I need to tighten up, for my family, we in there trying to find loopholes and we reading, now we reading and shit. You know what I mean? Because we trying to find loopholes in our cases so we can get out. But we chasing to get out just to go back to the dumb shit. You know what I mean? Instead of being like, yo, you know what? Shit is what it is. I'm going to try to get the best deal. But while I'm in here, I'm going to try to work on myself so when I get out, I can stay out for my family. You know what I mean? Because when I was locked up and then when I was in prison, there was a lot of guys in there that had kids, including myself. At the time I had one. Now I got two and one on the way. And, I really love my kids. You know what I'm saying? So it really hurt me to keep letting my son down at the time, you know, because I had my one son at the time. And I just kept letting him down by going to jail and then going to prison for all them years. You know what I mean? And that shit made me feel a way when he come up to visit and, you know, he asking me when I'm coming home and everybody's lying to him, telling him I'm at school and dumb shit like that. And, you know, I'm not into that. You know what I mean? And the moment I kept it real with my son and I told him, you know, Daddy did something that he wasn't supposed to do. And, you know, I'm not going to be home for a little bit. And I broke it down to him in a way that he could understand because he was like 4 at the time, maybe 5. And I just told him, like, you know, I'll be home, you know, when you turn such and such age. And it's going to be on this day. I'm coming home on this day. And he never asked me again when I was coming home because I kept it real with him. So I like keeping it real with my kids and being honest with them. So I'm going to be honest with them about life. And I'm not going to teach my kids to, you know, watch out for the white man because he out to get you. Like, nah, man. Listen, I'm going to teach my kids that hard work is the key to success. You know, not making no excuses, going and get it. You know what I'm saying? Putting yourself around people that are like-minded because these are the ways that we're going to get to where we're trying to get to. We keep making excuses, keep blaming other people for our bullshit. We're not going to get anywhere in life. And until I made that decision, you know, I was always in bullshit. And it was because I kept making excuses for me to keep going back out there doing dumb shit. The moment I said, I'm not going to take no shortcuts, the moment I said that I'm going to just do the work, because it was in me anyway, everything started working out. You know what I mean? So moral of the story is stop having a victim mentality, stop blaming other people, stop believing that the white man is holding you back, because I'm pretty sure anybody that I'm about to be 36 this month, actually in a couple weeks. And in all my life, when I think about it, I've never had the white man hold me back from nothing. I went to school with white people, you know, black people, whatever. We all read the same books, did the same work, had the same access to colleges, had the same access to everything. But it was me who chose to, you know, I was too cool for school. I dropped out, got my GED in prison down Yarville, and I had to go that route because I was too cool. Meanwhile, I had talents in basketball mainly, but in sports, I was athletic. I was really good. And instead of me, and it also to go back to the parent thing, my mom and dad beefed a lot when I was growing up, so that affected us. You know, I didn't really have that. You know, my parents love me. I love my parents. But I didn't have my parents at my games. I didn't have that support system that I seen other kids have. So that's why I'm on it with my kids, to make sure that I'm there for my kids and support my kids, because I know that feeling of not having it. And mind you, I was a kid that actually had the skills. And if I would have had the support and I would have, you know, that my dad especially could have gave me, then I would have got further. You know what I'm saying? I definitely would have went to college for sure. You know what I'm saying? I was in 7th grade, to the point where I was in 7th grade in my 8th and going into my 8th grade year, the high school wanted me to already start prepping to practice with them because they already knew I was going to be their star player. You know what I'm saying? But it didn't work out that way, and it's cool. And once again, I don't have a victim mentality about it. I don't regret it. It is what it is. But I tell my son that, you know, this is my story. These are the things that I went through. And I'm telling you that, because my son do knucklehead shit. And I'm telling him, dog, I used to do it. I'm telling you right now, this is the path you're going to go down if you keep continuing to do it. You know what I'm saying? But we can't control every single thing that they do. So all we can do is give them the game. If they take it, they take it. If not, then we just got to do our best as parents. You know what I'm saying? But that's my thought for the day, man. It's your boy SL550. And make sure y'all like, share, subscribe to the channel, comment down below, and hit that notification bell so you get notified every time I drop a dope video. It's your boy, I'm out.
Millionaire thoughts, billionaire dreams. I know niggas who played ball and gave it up for lean.
Millionaire thoughts, billionaire dreams, but my account in overdraft, I'm about to scream. Rich man greed, a poor man prayers. Every man bleeds, but look how God made us. Too many losses, it's only right that we win. Yeah, I made a promise I'm never gonna lose again.